thought it was Sunday again because you're home.
Today?
Yeah, you have the day off.
Yeah, I have an extra day off. We're getting passports for the kids.
Yeah. Where are we going?
We are going to go to Sweden this summer. I'm really excited.
It should be very fun.
Should be.
As long as I can calm my nerves about travel.
I think you can.
Focus on the fun.
Oh, I like that.
Which for me is like, let's just not talk about it. No.
Let's ignore it until it happens.
Yeah, let's ignore it until I have to face it.
You're funny.
Anyway. Welcome back to In Residence. I'm Keith.
And I'm Laura.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, Keith.
How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you?
Doing well.
Good.
This morning we're chatting and I was just like, oh wait, it's not Sunday.
Yeah.
And then I think I started feeling a little maybe pressure of, oh no, I'm supposed to be doing things. But it was more of us having kind of like a nice relaxing conversation and sipping coffee and then this thing that happens with me when there are appointments later in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And we might have hit on this, but I know some people that would just be like nodding their head with this of I kind of get stuck waiting and feeling like I can't do anything.
Yeah.
Until I check that off. And so it was twofold. I was waiting to go to this appointment for the passports, but then I was also waiting to sign for a package.
Mm-hmm.
I think what made it even harder was that FedEx now has the ability for you to track the driver.
Oh, yeah.
And so then I was just sitting there refreshing, watching the driver go to different neighborhoods around ours. And I'm like, why did you go that way? And
Come to me.
And so, and then
Yeah.
and I knew I was doing it. I knew I was stuck. I knew
Yeah.
I've experienced this before, but it was still hard for me to kind of shift out of it. And the only thing that did it was you got busy, which was good because then I got some like alone time to just go eat. And then I started culling my inbox. So I was doing busy work.
Okay.
And just getting something done that helped me kind of move through it a little bit.
Yeah.
I don't have any solutions yet. I probably got some work to do, but like that's kind of how not just my morning went, but also like a little bit of my week. And I don't want to necessarily talk ad nauseum about how Keith is always looking for a routine and how to like simply show up and do the thing that he says he wants to do.
Yeah.
But that's kind of how my last week has gone. Plus you were gone and you were gone, like you were on a trip.
Yeah.
So it's like you're almost
at a conference for 2 different weeks.
Yeah, and so you're even further away. So I have to take that into account too. I guess maybe like to wrap up that little segment of me complaining about the way I am to myself is I need to take time to reflect and actually tune into, okay, why am I feeling the way I'm feeling in the situation that I'm in? And, just some reflection and stuff. So anyway, I'm rambling.
I can see the reflection that you've done. This morning, I could sense that you were unsettled, but I couldn't quite say it without probably offending you, because I don't think you fully knew what was going on. And it's never fun to have someone be like, what's wrong? I can sense something's wrong with you.
Yeah, I mean, and that's...
But like I could sense it.
And like I just said, the thing that helped me was for me to pull back and have some space. And your go-to is, oh, there's a problem or there's something going on. Let's talk about it.
Put it on the table.
And it wasn't bad.
Yeah.
But I could just sense, oh, I'm in a funk and I know I'm in a funk, but it wasn't enough to just say it. I don't like that I'm in this and how am I going to fix it? And it just took a little meandering and actually that's what it felt like. It felt like I'm like, I think I said to you, I'm like, I'm meandering instead of finding the flow. And they can look similar if they're unexamined.
Yeah. I even tried on the way to go get the passports to soothe you by putting Metallica on.
Yeah, that helped.
Did it help?
Yeah.
Okay.
You're like, should I put on some music? I'm like, yep, do it. I'm going to drive. I'm like, let me zone out. Let me meditate while I drive kind of thing. You could just tell like I was just vibrating on like a different wavelength.
But after we got the appointment done, everything was good, right?
Yeah.
Or it felt good.
Yeah.
Felt better.
And nothing was actually bad. It was just, I could just tell I was just like a little out of sorts or something.
Yeah.
And it was probably just everything that I just was rambling about of I didn't really realize what day it was. And now I know what day it is, but I'm not even getting to do what I do on Monday. It's just like these shouldn't be things that really trip me up, and I should see them coming because we've known for what 2 months that we've had this appointment.
Oh yeah. Yeah. It's been since Christmas.
Yeah. So that's just some me stuff.
I get you though, because I mean, I was traveling, as we said, the last couple weeks, and even though it's been nice because I've been home working remote a couple Mondays, so I have vacation today. The Monday before, I was working remote because I was traveling closer to our home on the western part of the state. I will say my routine has been different. So even the first trip I had, I normally am really good about drinking water and hydrating. I was not. Like, I woke up and I was just parched. And I'm like, did I have maybe like 3 glasses of water? And I'm used to having over 100 ounces of water. And so this last trip, I brought my water bottle with me because that's routine for me. It kind of gets me back into that flow of mindful hydration.
You're taking care of yourself.
Yeah. Or even getting movement in. I told myself on both the trips I wanted to go to the hotel gym at least once and make sure I was getting so many steps. So if I was walking a lot during the day, that was okay. But if I wasn't walking a lot during the day, I really wanted to go to the gym and lift some weights or, get on bicycle, something like that. And I did that on both of the trips, but it felt different. But I did it because I wanted to create some sense of normalcy, even though it was different.
Yeah.
So those routines, when they shift, can really get you, or maybe to use my words, it makes me a little uneasy and just feeling a little not quite.
A little out of sync.
Yeah.
That kind of brings up the idea of developing resilience.
Right.
Also, I don't know if you read it yet, but the bumpers.
I haven't.
But I mentioned that how having a floor set where no matter if I'm not feeling well or I'm feeling amazing, what's the bare minimum I'm going to do in a day? And just having that floor set and just finding what that is. And I think maybe that was a little bit of what I was feeling and maybe what you were trying to keep established.
Yeah.
Right on your
even
trip.
A little thread of it.
Yeah. One other thing I did, I was like, gotta get some food. That'll probably affect my mood. And then what I do sometimes for the 15 minutes I'm eating, I'll throw on a YouTube video. I watched a TED Talk real quick, and it was about automation and like automating your life. And so that was good because I'm always talking about routines. And I'm like, ooh, that's interesting because we've been kind of talking about that because you just read Co-Intelligence.
Yep, by Ethan Malik.
Yep. And so I'm still trying to get through it. But another one I watched real quick was Hank Green. He was doing a quick video, and I think the title was even like, this is not an actual video. And he was just kind of rambling, talking about how he's not prepared, and they're coming off of they do their big fundraiser, I guess, where they get lots of donations to help different organizations, right? Like, so they raised like $3.5 million the other weekend, basically like a big telethon they do on YouTube. And so basically he was talking about how his dopamine was up really high for a 3-day weekend, and then it kind of came crashing down. So long story short, I'm wondering if that kind of also happened to me because we had a really nice visit with family.
We did
the day before, and I was having a great time. And then all of a sudden, the next day, I was like a little low, and I was like, oh, so it was really, really interesting. That another thing that I use to kind of maybe help regulate myself is like I'll go take in some content that like helps me learn something, or that's not purely entertainment, but I'm like, oh, I usually learn something. If I watch a TED Talk, I usually learn something. I usually learn something if I watch a vlog. Brothers, they usually are talking about something that's kind of important in the world. It happened to be 2 things that I think about, which is how is my mood? How am I doing? And the other one was structuring your life. And I didn't really think of that until just now while we were going through this. But I'm like, that's kind of why I go back to YouTube, is because I usually find something that's pertinent to me here and now.
Right.
And helps me move along. So anyway.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm like, oh, I'm watching YouTube a lot. I'm not watching, I don't even want to name anybody, but like there's some stuff on there where it's like I could really be doing something better with my time.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with just relaxing and having, like we were talked about before, like nice to just have a show that's just silly and fun to watch,
Yeah.
I think it just highlighted that I like to stimulate that part of my brain that is that learner part of me. So anyway.
Yeah. That stimulating your brain, I think that's an important thing. So you and I was noticing when we had family over, we were talking about all the different shows that we watch.
Yeah.
And I'm like, gosh, we watch a lot of TV.
Yeah, you can kind of start judging yourself, right? And
a little bit.
Which is kind of fair.
But
Especially if I'm going to complain about not having my stuff together.
Right. That's kind of our go-to. So with the conversation with your sister and her husband, as we were talking about all these different shows and they were talking about shows, it was fun to hear what everyone was up to and into. But then I kind of started thinking, gosh, I'd like to do something other than just watching shows with Keith. And we do the podcasts and we read a lot and we share our ideas. But I've always thought, I'm like, gosh, I'd really like to learn pickleball and play with Keith. Or, gosh, I'd really like to be the type of people that sit down and have a glass of wine or a beer and play cribbage together.
Right.
With a cool, funky board, So last night I told you that, and I think you were ready to just kind of like relax and hang out, watch a show. And you helped me learn how to play cribbage.
Oh, yeah. I hadn't played in like 20 years. So I pulled up a YouTube video. All right, let's just watch this. And I know the 15 is involved.
Yeah.
But let's get down. So we just played a quick game.
Yeah.
That's fun for me. Like that. Like I think you asked, well, we can do this or we could play cribbage and I'm like, well, I'd rather play a game than whatever else it was. I'm like, I am starting to wind down, but a game is relaxing to me.
Yeah.
Or it can be.
That's
especially if I'm losing. No.
That was fun, and I want to do more of it because watching shows is fun, but there's so much more out there that you can do to connect as well.
Yeah.
And to learn.
Yeah, there's lots of other things, or like you were talking about pickleball, and we both want to be more active and find the space to make that part of our routine.
Yeah.
And in that same thought, I want to read more from the page.
Not listening.
I'm never going to stop listening, but I want to make a little more time to read an actual book.
Yeah.
So down with that. I'm down with this. Maybe not having so many slots of shows or everything in moderation kind of thing, right?
Yeah. So you were talking about routines a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
And
like always.
Yeah, I know.
I should have the most amazing routine for how much I talk about wanting to have a routine.
But there's something about talking about it and just simply showing up and doing it.
Yeah.
Right? But I had gotten a journal from, gosh, it might have been a year ago or more. Something somebody had recommended to me, a productivity journal from, what is his name?
Brendan Bouchard or something like that.
Brendan Bouchard.
It's like high performance or something.
Yeah, high performance journal. And I've never used it because when I got it, what I was looking for was a blank journaling page. And what this is a monthly. It's structured. It's very structured.
Very structured, yeah.
So it's kind of like, what are you doing? What's coming up in the month, the week, your day, and it does like a planning for each of those, and then a debrief essentially with yourself or reflection. That's a better way to say it. A reflection with yourself. It's well laid out. It has questions, and I've been thinking, gosh, maybe that's something I should do because when I have a plan, I really execute a plan. I haven't done that intentionally. I've been rolling week by week. When it comes to personal stuff, in particular, or our projects, I've been rolling week to week or even day by day where I'm like, maybe I'll just watch Arrested Development instead. Right?
Yeah.
I do wonder what would happen if I was to begin to use that.
Yeah. Oh, I'm sure you would see forward momentum build. The little of that I do, it helps me focus and move things forward. Where I trip up is I think I'm a little judgmental about what I do like daily.
Mhm.
And I think comparison creeps in. And I maybe undervalue the things that take up or can take up my days. And I need to not be so critical of that stuff because, like,
Mhm.
it can be annoying. But if I can throw laundry in and do something else, I feel efficient and I feel productive, and that kind of lights me up.
Yeah.
And if I'm going to be critical about the housework, then I'm kind of losing sight of what I gain from it, teaching child 2 how to shave.
Yeah. That was so cute today.
Yeah. And just the little moments like that, I need to make sure that I'm aware that there's a reason I do the things I do, and it's so that I get to enjoy that kind of stuff, that type of quality time.
Mhm.
It's something to be cherished. So I need to not get down on myself for feeling like I don't do enough. And at the same time, I want to create more structure and plan more because I don't want to let myself off the hook with that. Like, that doesn't need to be my ceiling. Like,
Right.
that needs to be my floor. And I need to realize that if I can be more intentional about how I plan, like you're saying, and I can maybe use a little more guidance and structure with a planner, I can get a lot more done. And I'll feel that maybe. So I think I was telling you the fulfillment, because like when I was working a 9 to 5 and being told what to do every day, there's some enjoyment in that and getting the work done, but it wasn't quite as fulfilling. Getting to be home is fulfilling in a different way, but then I think I'm finding that I'm missing the kind of the rush of tackling a project and shipping it and getting it done. And I'm not trying to be hard on myself with that, but I think I'm trying to just raise the bar
Mhm.
and realize that getting the podcast out is a great win
Yeah.
during the week in that project department. I want more of that. And I don't think anything else, like personally, has to suffer for it,
Mhm.
especially because our kids are growing
Yeah.
and they're so self-sufficient and they they can take care of many things on their own. And that gives me a little more freedom, but it also makes me realize, like, well, I better enjoy the time that they want me around, and create space for that to happen, and like going out to like an early dinner tonight with
Yeah.
them, and enjoying what I have and knowing that I can also keep manifesting and building better. Anyway, that's my second rant for the day, I think.
No, I think it's good. One thing you said that you noticed was you really like to or have that satisfaction from shipping projects. And I wonder, I know since you do the dishes and you do the laundry, it's kind of like shoveling in the middle of a snowstorm a little bit,
It is like that though too.
right?
Yeah.
Because once you do it, there's another pair of pajama pants in the hamper, or
Yeah.
there's another cup by the sink,
Yeah.
or you
Oh yeah.
right? Like,
Yeah. So yeah, it's not like, don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to paint it like I completely love doing chores. I complain about them probably just as much as anybody else. But it is a great excuse for me to dive into the meditative process that is repetition, and it's manual labor, so I can listen to things, and I can, like I did in the cabinet shop. I listen to so
yeah,
many
you
books and so
did.
many podcasts. So that's why I enjoy it, because it gives me the ability to do things like that. So it's not 100% amazing and it's not 100% terrible, right? It ebbs and flows, and so I'm not trying to paint it like any ideal or any like tragic,
Yeah.
scene, but it can be better. And how can I do that? Well, I have to put the work in
Hmm.
to if I want things to improve. So but anyway, I think maybe I rambled away from what you brought up was like that planner
Yeah.
and injecting a little more structure into your personal projects or
Yeah.
how you set yourself up, in that
Right.
aspect. Because the work comes easy because that's just how it's always been done, it seems like.
Mm.
You
Well,
get
and
paid to do it.
for work, it's different because I can see where we need to go. But when it comes to things personally that I'm trying to accomplish and do, it feels like that shares my time with so many other things: working out and sleeping, meal prepping, planning so I have food that feels good in my body. That all takes time and intention. And sometimes when I get to the end of the day, all I want to do is sit down and watch a show that I don't have to think about and finish the Wordle.
Yeah.
It does make me wonder, if I planned out my month, my week, and then my day, if I got that sort of intentionality to it, would I potentially see more long term where I'm headed? And if I could see that, would I make small alignments or small adjustments? Like, one good example maybe is the content that I consume. So normally each week I'm commuting back and forth between Green Bay and here on the western side of the state. Lately, I haven't necessarily had a plan of what is it that I'm going to listen to. So I've listened to things that I've enjoyed. Like I listened to Molly Shannon's book, her biography.
Oh, fun.
Yeah, super fun.
You didn't tell me that.
It's really good. Right now, I'm almost done with Ina Garten's from the Barefoot Contessa.
You did tell me about that.
I'm really enjoying that one too. But if I'm trying to think about where do I want to go, what are my goals that I want to do, maybe I would choose to listen to something that is more intentional. Like use that 3.5 to 4 hours or, 7 to 8 hours if you put them together to really move forward some of that thinking in a different, more intentional way. And I guess not everything has to be productive, intentional, aligned. But if my goals are something I'm passionate about and something I'm excited to accomplish, maybe it wouldn't feel like drudgery,
Yeah. Well, I think what I've learned over the last year or so is being able to state your goals and get real about them. Then, you come back down another layer and you say, okay, so what are the actions I'm going to do to help me achieve those goals? So what am I going to do this week to move those along? And then at the end of the week, you reflect and you review, and then you check in and see, okay, did I move this forward, and what's the next steps, or oh no, I didn't get to that, so I'm going to bring it forward and keep working on it. Another part of that is also being able to design your week and design your month is building in the blank space and building in the time for you to simply listen to something for enjoyment. If you know that you're doing that, there doesn't need to be judgment. There doesn't need to be a feeling of, well, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. It's like, no, I'm doing exactly what I planned on doing because I wrote it down. Like, and another thing would be maybe when I get home from work and I empty out my lunch bag and I get it ready for the next day in the fridge. So all I have to do is put it in the lunch bag. If I do that and I do maybe a couple other things, maintenance things to set me up for tomorrow, then how much more enjoyable will that show be when I watch it, or finishing the Wordle, or
Yeah.
those are things that I strive for, and and saying it out loud, I want that to be something that holds me more accountable for actually choosing those things, and maybe challenging myself to see, how much better does it feel if I quote unquote earn the reward. I might have to do that. Okay, don't come home and just plop on the couch after a hard day, because that's not going to get me where I want to go, right?
Yeah.
And I know where I want to go because I address, like, okay, what are my goals? Where do I want to be in a year from now, or 3 years, and all that stuff. Anyway, I'm rambling. I know you get it, but you saying that really helps me remember, like, oh yeah, that's right. I get to choose and design what I'm going to be doing. And what I'm doing right now, it's working. It's working for giving me what I have.
Yeah.
So what do I want? Do I want what I have, or do I want something different? And if I want that, then I have to do things differently.
Mm-hmm.
So I gotta have like a little sit down with myself, right? And I mean that's what I do like
Yeah.
at least once a week, and I think I need to start doing it a little more. I've started journaling again a little more.
Yeah.
What's the word I'm looking for? Just more
Consistently.
more consistently. But that's another reason why, like, I did it yesterday real quick, and I think I wrote Saturday at the top of the page. That's why I thought today was Sunday. Looking back, I'm like, oh, that tracks.
Yeah.
Like that's another reason. I think I wrote the wrong year on one of my like when I'm doing editing work. This is a quick aside. When I'm doing editing work on the podcast, I try to track my time and just to see.
Mm-hmm.
And so I date it, and I'm trying to be studious and like make nice notes. I came back after one night. I came back the next day to work, and I had dated it like, February, whatever, 20,
20,
like 5 years ago. And I just I just started laughing at myself. And then I saw, that wasn't the last day. That was a couple days ago. And yesterday I wrote 24, and I'm like, well, I got closer, but it's 2025. So.
Oh gosh.
So anyway, sorry. I that was a funny little aside that I just thought of. Time is starting to be a little weird with me, and I just need to rein myself back in.
When you were working in the cabinet shop and you had a project or a job that you were doing, what sort of things did you do or structures did you have in place to make sure that you got it done, shipped on time, and had everything correct, or everything done in the way that it was meant to be?
There was a schedule, and it would just be like our names and what we were supposed to be working on like Monday and Tuesday. Keith is going to do face frames. Wednesday, Thursday, he's going to be putting the sets together, which means putting the doors and drawer fronts on, and any of like the garbage pullouts and like devices that go into like a kitchen or a bathroom or whatever. And I was the one that loaded the trailers and got everything tucked away, right? So once I learned all the processes, it would just say that like on the broad weekly schedule. So then it was up to me, right, to be telling myself what I had to be doing. And I made lists. And I made lists for the shop because we were always missing trim to go with. And so I went in one day and I took like a half an hour and I just made tiny little spreadsheets that had the list of trim, the quantity, the finish. And, you could print like maybe 8 or 10 of them off and I would just cut them in half. Little process improvement. I excelled at that in a way. But just refining the processes and writing it down. After a little while, I started getting better at actually asking, like, is this the best way? Once you get good enough at something, then you can start saying, like, well, maybe I could be better. Like,
yeah,
that lights me up a little bit. And I don't always do it. Like, I know I'm definitely stuck in my ways about certain things, but I know in the last few years, I've started to be a little more curious. Well, how could I make even what I think is good even better? And you show up to work some days and you're like, I just want to get it done. Let's get it done. But that was never an excuse to let anything that didn't meet spec get through. Like, what would you say? High expectations? Or what's the quality control? Yeah. My quality control is pretty high.
Yeah, you expect high quality work.
They definitely saw that and they're like, okay, good. If we're not sure about something, go ask Keith. And if Keith says to send it back and have it refinished, that means we probably should. But if Keith doesn't see the mistake, it's probably fine, right?
It's normally a really good rule to live by right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
Keith doesn't see the mistake.
I mean, make sure I'm like not eating a sandwich or something, right? You got my, if it really matters, make sure you have my full attention. But yeah, I think I just work really well when I can create protocols and follow the steps. I excelled at that. But I think what I saw growing into was I also enjoyed being the one that got to design the process and say, well, maybe we should try it this way and not that way. Or why am I doing it this way? Like being okay with asking the question.
Yeah.
And not to be contrarian, but just to be like, I don't quite understand it.
Sure.
I think it's good when someone can ask a question, not to be a pain in the butt, but simply like, oh, my brain's working differently. I'm not quite sure why you're doing that. Can you explain it to me? And then, or if I say, well, why not this way? And if you don't just simply say because, like if you can say, well, oh, this way because da da da, not
Sure.
just because,
Right.
So that's a long answer to asking me a question, but
No, I mean, I think that's exactly what I was looking for, though, because I think often when we're working or, doing like a job we've been hired to do,
mhm,
it's easier to put those structures in place to say, okay, this is how we're going to go about things. Because for me in my work, I often, if I have a project, I know what the outcome or the end goal looks like. And then I backtrack and set up various things along the way and figure out what do I need to have done and what does it need to look like. And then I plan meetings or different steps or tasks that need to happen so that way I'm staying on track and I know what milestones I need to hit. And so typically I set up what is that milestone? What needs to happen before? So that's then how I structure a lot of my weeks.
yeah. I do that on a small scale, even here with the podcast. Like I know when it needs to go out, so I know that I have to be working on it a certain amount of time prior.
Yeah.
But like I said, I've started trying to take more notes and be mindful of the time I'm spending and actually dialing in my process of editing. I think I've refined it, and every time I think I do, then I'm like, but it's not quite the same. I need to make this a little better. I was doing that for a couple months here,
Sure.
but now I think I have it dialed in pretty well, or well enough. Now it's at the point where the only thing that's really going to help my job get any easier with editing is some hardware. We'd
Sure.
have to spend more money on much better mics and treating the room a little bit, which I've already got like a list of some things that are inexpensive and actually something I can make.
There's a project.
Yeah. So leaning into those things and not over investing in something that's not going to make that big of a difference.
Yeah.
But if I find some enjoyment in tweaking the process a little bit, that's enough for me.
Mhm.
And just because it's not perfect doesn't mean we're not recording.
Right.
It's like we're recording, it is what it is, and it's good enough for now. Because I'm gonna start being more intentional about focusing my actions on moving other things forward besides constantly tweaking some knobs, trying to fix something that is like nobody's going to notice that. I'm noticing it
Yeah.
because I have headphones on and I'm really paying attention. So,
Right.
but there's also some things that I don't know how to fix that. There's going to be like a little glitch in the recording and everybody can deal with it. We've grown up with FM and AM radio, like we're fine.
In the internet, right? The
modem.
What is that? How did that sound?
Sound like SimCity's train to me. King, 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 king.
There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah.
That's funny.
A dial-up tone.
I don't think I have it near me, but the quote from the calendar about shame from your birthday.
It's right here.
Do you have it?
Yeah.
Can you read it?
So I don't know if that made it into. I think that might have been in an episode where like there was like a quote. I can't remember where it was from, but it was about shame, and we should maybe talk about that.
Yeah.
And I had torn it out and put it over by where you sit, but when you came down, you had stuff, so I grabbed it and I moved it.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the one from my birthday
From
this year.
I have it in my journal. Actually, I tore it out. It's in my journal.
Okay. All right. So I'm not sure where you're going, but I'll
Okay.
read this because it's sitting over by me. So anyway, okay. So this is from Seth Godin's Go Make a Ruckus calendar from 2025. Shame is a dream killer, and shame is delivered to us by other people. We can work to not accept it. The quote about shame that it resonated with both of us.
Yeah.
And probably with a lot of people.
Probably. Where I was coming from and thinking about that quote, thinking about shame is what are those things that we've wanted to go after but just feel stuck or feel a little bit of shame because we've said it so many times that we ought to be further. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, well, I mean, right off the top of my head, like my routine, right? But what that really is my routine is a big deal to me because it's like, how do I create this system that gets me where I want to go? Well, okay, so where do I want to go?
Right.
Well, I want to be healthier. I want to lose weight.
Yep.
I want to have maybe some more success with where I'm putting my energy into work,
Okay.
right? Maybe how do I do something like we're doing here with this podcast and create income from it, right?
Yeah.
How do I help people with the work I want to do? Like I think I even talked to you about that earlier today where I was like, I kind of get really lofty, and when I think of goals, I'm like, well, my number one goal is I want to help people.
Yeah.
But then you're like, I could see in your eyes, and I'm like, and don't know. I'm like, hold on, Laura. Like, I know, I got to bring it down to like, what are actions? What are goals that I can take that can do that? And actually define it, right? So,
Right.
but like right off the top of my head, it's things like, oh, I'm going to lose weight this year, and I'm still on my journey, and I'm not
Yep.
trying to beat myself up about it, but I'm sure I get some of those not helpful thoughts every now and then.
Yeah.
But yeah, stuff like that comes up for me.
Mm-hmm.
How about you?
No, same.
Same.
It is, I will say, I was thinking about that journaling approach, that high performance journal.
Yeah.
And I was like, well, what would I even write about that I'm trying to achieve? I was like, well, being healthier,
Mm-hmm.
right? So getting my movement in, eating well, getting strength training in, right? Like that's one thing I'm really focused on is being strong,
Mm-hmm.
or stronger, bone health, things like that. But then the other thing, I'm giggling because I have shame from it because I have said so many times that I want to be a person that blogs.
Right.
And how many blogs have I put out? 0.
Yeah.
0. I haven't even written drafts really for about a year. Well, okay, maybe that's a little unfair. It's probably been 6 months. But it's one of those things where I feel shame because I've publicly proclaimed this is something I want to do. And it's not that other people are essentially making me feel bad for not following through with my goals, but there's something about when you proclaim them external to yourself. There's a level of accountability that comes with it. And if you're not meeting or doing the things, even if you want to do them, there's this guilt.
Yeah.
That kind of comes to me, right?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Oh, I know exactly what you're saying.
And I feel almost foolish saying it again on another podcast episode.
Right.
Here we are again. Laura still hasn't written a blog. Laura still is working on figuring out her routine for movement and stuff like that. She hasn't arrived yet.
Yeah. I think that's that shadow talk.
Shady
And
Laura.
Yep.
Right.
And same within my head when I'm journaling, it comes out, and I actually call it out, and I that self-assessment I do, the shadow part, I'm like, okay, what are the things in my head that are telling me no? And you were just doing it there. You're really dampening any of the forward momentum, no matter how small you've done. That voice is really making it almost non-existent.
Right. Like, I mean, goodness, I got up and I actually went to the hotel gym.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need a cookie for that. Well, I mean, that's counterproductive. But do you know what I'm saying? Like, not many people who are conferencing get up and go to the gym in the morning.
Well, and you don't even, so I think maybe a nice reframe of that is, instead of focusing on that, not many people, like, you don't even have to go there. You can be
That's
like,
fair.
I'm one of the people.
People like me.
I'm people like us that get up and go to the hotel gym.
Yeah.
And leaning into that again might be helpful for me too. People like me do things like this.
Yeah. I don't even know if shame, maybe shame's too much. But how do you get through maybe that disappointment with yourself that you're not further along and keep moving forward?
Well, I think if you you got to not let the guilt or the shame keep you kind of frozen in place. When we let like a script run in our head that we're not far enough along or we're not good enough, and we stop ourselves from any small step forward, I don't think that's helpful, right?
No.
So finding a way around getting stuck in that loop
Mm-hmm.
is really key. I know I'm in a loop. I'm sitting here and I'm stuck in it, but sitting in the shame or the guilt isn't going to get you out of it. You have to like make a choice and just any little movement. And like for me, maybe it started with watching a YouTube video.
Mm-hmm.
Usually when I'm listening to them, I'm not usually watching them. I'm usually listening. And that kind of triggers to my body of like, oh, this is when we get up and we move and we let things come into our brain and we're listening, and then we get up and we move and we do something. I'm like, oh, well, it's time for me to eat. So I'm going to get up and I'm going to make myself some food and let that snowball, right? But
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's easy, but you just got to find that little teeny tiny little step forward, right? Finding a way to get yourself to not focus on doom loop. For
Yeah.
me, what's the smallest little thing I can do?
Mm-hmm.
Not getting stuck in a loop of like, I'm not good enough. I'm not moving forward this project. It's like,
Mm-hmm.
well, you're never going to move it forward if you don't try to move it forward just a little bit. We were talking about something and I'm like, oh, there's that instant gratification again, right? It's like, okay, I get it. I can't have it now, so I'm not even going to try to get it. It's like, all right, got to have a little talk with myself again. Here's the deal. It's okay if something takes a little time and a little effort. Let's plug away. Let's make a list for that specific thing. And like you were saying, like it feels so good to check something off. You're saying that,
I was so excited.
we checked off getting the passports,
We did our appointment.
and I'm like, I definitely don't think like that with that type of stuff. I see it as I'm like, oh, an appointment in the middle of the afternoon. And I'm like, well, maybe I should reframe it like and think about it like Laura does. Well, we got that taken care of.
Yeah.
It's a much nicer feeling. Like me just saying it, I'm like smiling now instead of an appointment,
Yeah.
a chore. Yeah, it's really funny. Saying it differently
Mm-hmm.
changes my attitude.
Frame it a little bit.
I feel like I'm really rambling.
Mm-hmm. That's okay. I think you're making good points though around not getting too down on yourself for small steps, because small steps add up to bigger steps.
Yeah. We talk about that a lot. And so that even that's another thing where everything we say, I'm like, we say this all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You were even saying like, here we are talking about how we want to improve a certain spot again. And I'm like, you know what? It's going to get better if we keep talking about it. I don't want to be down on myself for repeating myself, but
Right.
I do a little bit. But anyway.
Yeah.
Sorry for interrupting.
One thing I want to challenge myself with, I think, coming up in the next couple weeks, I want to dust off that high performance journal and actually do it.
Well, you shouldn't have handed it to me because now it's on my side of the room.
You want to do it? It's okay.
No,
I can probably get us another one.
No, I just want to like look at
Understand
it a little bit.
Okay.
Because I mean, I kind of understand it.
Yeah, it's what you do each week.
But it is nice to see someone else's process and just kind of see like, oh, how do they have this planner set up?
Yeah. Even to have, I know I listened to some of his podcasts, or I think he has a book too. One thing he recommended is you can be on social media, but put some bumpers maybe, or put some framework around that.
That's Nick Peterson.
Right. Bumpers. And just say, okay, so I'm going to go on social media. I'm setting a timer for 30 minutes, no guilt. But when that timer goes off, I'm done. So I could say that with social media for myself. I could say it for Duolingo. I will say Duolingo and the gamification is so hard. I dropped down from the Diamond League this week to the Obsidian League, and I am crushed. And I want to go back to the Diamond League. It's hard to get into it. Anyway, so if you complete these quests, then you get like double or triple XP. And so I can find myself sometimes in the evenings when I'm in Green Bay during the week doing Duolingo because I get a double XP, a triple XP, and then I just keep going. They keep stacking the more I finish.
They keep you on, yep.
And before I know it, I've spent like an hour practicing Swedish.
There's much worse things you could be doing, right?
I know. There is.
Again, and I would be like, well, at least I was learning Swedish.
Mm-hmm. Yes. So it's those sort of things where maybe putting more parameters around the time I spend.
Blocking that time.
Right.
Being intentional, like we've talked about. I would take it a step further and reflect on, okay, I did that, or I tried to do that and this happened. Whether you accomplish what you set out to do or not, reflect on how do you feel.
Yeah.
Whether you succeeded or failed, embrace how you feel about it. Like, do I feel better that I met the goal I was seeking? I only did Duolingo for 25 minutes. How do I feel about that? Do I want more time because it's enjoyable?
Right.
Or I went for an hour when I said I was only going to do 15 minutes and now I feel guilty, and explore that, because that'll give you some information about maybe how you can create a plan that leaves you feeling like resonating on a higher level versus feeling guilt or shame.
Yeah.
That's probably something that I'm seeking to do with becoming more intentional about my journaling. And I think I need to incorporate a little more structure daily into that. I think that'll really help me be in tune with where I'm at and understanding some of the things that maybe I don't. Like this morning, again, not to bring it back to that, but I'm like, I was just a little low and I wasn't quite sure, but I want to develop that muscle of being more in tune with my feelings, and I'm fairly sensitive, but it doesn't necessarily mean I understand why I'm being so sensitive.
Right.
I want to be able to decode those things a little bit more and dive in.
Yeah.
Is that it?
I think so.
We should wrap it up.
What if we were to say one tangible thing that we're going to do this week that will help us work towards something that we've proclaimed that we want to do?
Yeah. Well, I'm really looking forward to hopefully getting to do a couple Zoom calls with you. I've missed that. And so I think blocking that time again.
Tuesday, Thursday?
Yep. Will help give me a little more structure for other times that I can block out.
Yeah.
Because I know that there are things I want to be spending my time on versus watching a show. Right. And relaxing and unwinding. Like, I want to be more productive, and I want to move another podcast project forward. And and there's things that I've written it out and I've written it down. I mean, of like, okay, these are some action steps I need to take. Well, I'm gonna now go probably in my weekly outline and drop those in and be like, okay, well, if you get those done, then go ahead and watch a movie or a show. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Right. Or another thing too is having more intentional time with the boys.
Yeah.
It's a interesting time. Mm-hmm. They're teenagers. They're great.
They're lovely teenagers.
They like their own space and they like be with each other, and like hearing their banter is amazing. So I tend to try to not bug them. I try to let them
get in there. You're the dad.
No, I know. And so it's just I don't want to go at them and have them retreat from me, because I think that would crush me.
Oh, honey.
And just on a certain level, right? So I don't want to scare them off, kind of thing. I could tell they need their space, but I want to cultivate like time for like us to maybe, like, if I'm going to watch a show, maybe it's because I picked one that I think they would like laugh at or think is goofy or funny, and like maybe have like a movie night. Like we used to do movie nights, when they were younger,
Do some homemade popcorn.
Yeah. and just
Skittles or M&Ms.
and that can be like an event. So things like that. So
Yeah.
I definitely want to fill that cup. I need to give a little more attention to that relationship and my work and like my projects.
Mm-hmm.
Because the play takes care of itself. I do want to be more intentional about my hobbies, creating more time for fun projects like woodworking and guitar and music.
Mm-hmm.
And then also my health. I want to be much more diligent about that. So I think across all of those areas, I like to learn.
Mm-hmm.
And so just being mindful of that and giving myself time and space to do that. So again, rambling, I've got plenty of things that I want to create time and space to put my energy into, for sure.
So what is your tangible step for next week?
Tangible step? Like blocking it out? Or what? Is that not tangible enough? Or
blocking out your schedule?
Yeah.
For like specific times?
Yeah. Like that.
Cool.
I need to make sure that when 5 o'clock rolls around, I don't simply deflate and just be like, all right, the day's over.
Mm-hmm.
It's like there's, for me, 6 to 7 hours left in the day.
Yeah.
Because I stay up till about 11:30, 12 o'clock.
And if you're picking something you're passionate about and you love to do, it won't feel like work, quote unquote.
Well, and for me, like the easiest step forward, the easiest win would be like, hey guys, let's have popcorn and watch a movie. That's play and quality time. Yep. So probably like the number one thing I'm going to maybe work on making happen. Anyway, okay. So what about you?
Oh gosh. So I think the tangible step is probably to take that book back.
The planner, you mean?
The planner back with me and to start filling it out. I will say I'm having, you know what? No, I'm not going to do it.
What?
Well, okay. So next week, March 1st is coming, right?
Yep.
So maybe I start the planner on March 1st because it starts with a month plan and then goes into, or am I just being a perfectionist about that? I think I have some tangible things I could do before that.
Well, just start where you're at, and the first month in there.
Yeah.
Start on the last week of that month because that's what this is.
Yeah.
And then you have like kind of like 3 weeks or so of a sketch pad before it where you can go in and you can play and doodle or something. That's not, I
don't want to do that.
You're like, that's not how I work,
That is
Keith.
not how I work, Keith. Because I'd be wasting like 3 of the 4 weeks.
You're not. No. Okay.
What?
Whatever. Fair enough. Then here's what you do then.
What?
Get yourself a notebook, which you have plenty.
Yes.
And just draw it out yourself in a notebook for this week. And then start on March 1.
And then pick it up.
Yep.
Okay. I can do that.
I had like a 15-minute reply and you had like a 30-second reply. Are we good?
I think so. I don't know. I mean, the other thing, that's a tangible step because the two things that I am simply just feel a little stuck with, again, are getting movement and working on our project, moving it forward.
Okay.
That might be blogging. That might be something else. I'm not sure. I think something I can do this week for both of those things is get 2 movement days in the morning to get back into kind of, or evening, to try and get into a routine. Again, now that I'm done conferencing the last couple weeks, get some good food in Green Bay so I have fresh veggies that feel good in my body, and fruit, and spend time doing something other than watching TV.
Yeah. That's good.
Which I think I can do.
For my health, I'm going to this week make sure I do like at least 2 workouts because my goal is to do 4 a week with this new plan that I'm going to have. It's already Monday and I'm already kind of missed a day. So like maybe like I'll drop and do some more push-ups or something.
Okay.
Or something just to do like a little bit. But like I'm going to stick to Tuesday and Thursday this week. Like I would on a regular week of like, those are my days that I know I'm going to hit. And then just like you, like next week, is going to be kind of like implementing what I'm actually going for, you know. I mean, you take as many steps as you need, right? Check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Make it doable. Is
Yeah.
kind of what I'm telling myself. So
Doable is important. That is something I ask myself often, is this is what I'm going to do this week. And then I say, is that doable though? And sometimes the answer is yeah. Sometimes it's no. And sometimes it's like, it's way more than doable. Maybe you need to ramp that up a little bit, ratchet it up just a bit.
yeah, right on. Okay, let's get out of here.
All right, let's do it.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. What is that? How did that sound? There
Yeah.
you go.
Yeah. To me, it always sounded like the early SimCity trains.
Yeah.
I was like, why does the train sound like a modem?
That's funny.
A dial-up tone.
Oh gosh.